Um, this just worked out perfectly that we're going to have a conversation with Robert, as our first Align Your Mind session is tonight. But I also just wanted to quickly shout out there that our next office hour sessions is Tuesday, November 12th from 10 to 1. The link will be in the comments section relatively soon. So please click on that. You can send out an email, come get some advice on anything in the business world, legal, IP, strategy, people, and away we go. So without further ado, I am very, very passionate about this topic. We've hosted courses before. I've shared our story, my family story, to be vulnerable, to let people know. I was gracious enough to meet Robert through a friend of mine, through our girls softball, Nick Campbell. And here we are launching a course with the thanks to CIC. You've done some great work here with Align Your Mind. Robert, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. Yeah, I'm doing fantastic. I love your energy. I like the vibe. I'm excited to have this conversation. And I'm really looking forward to, meeting the 25 plus people that we have tonight, showing up for our workshop. It's going to be a great night.
It will be a great night. And again, the link will be up here right away to sign up for courses 2, 3, and 4. Unfortunately, we are sold out of course 1, which is very promising. We all, you and I both know there's a lot of people that do need help and do need to talk and do need that, to understand their mind and how it works in business. So this is something that, you have done for a while. You have shared with many people, many courses, across Western Canada, with universities, with high-end athletes. So why don't you give us a little background about yourself, how you got into this, and why you felt it was important to launch a course like Align Your Mind?
Well, for me, it was a very organic process. I was in business, sales management. I finished my corporate career as director of Western Canada. So I was working my way up that ladder basically since my early 20s. And it was very apparent to me, we all know we can train our mind, our body, and our craft. For me, and I think for most, we're not taught on how to train our mind. We're taught how to train our craft, create our skills, develop our skills, and then put those skills into practice. And if you're working for any corporation, any business, we all have targets. We have numbers that we need to make. We have results that we need to obtain. So without even really thinking about it, this is only in hindsight, I realized that, I was being pushed, me personally, to succeed, but it wasn't my skills or my craft that I needed to sharpen. It was my mindset. It was my attitude. It was my beliefs. It was my perception of how things went on. So when I was in business, I thought, I really need to work on this. I need to feel better. I'm good at what I do. I'm successful at what I do, but I'm not feeling successful. So I ended up putting myself through school. I took neuro-linguistic programming, which is really a part of psychology that discusses, the language of your mind, how your mind operates, and the language we use to program it, to wire it, to rewire it. And from there, I was really able to learn how to dial in me, sharpen up my mindset, understand what my limiting beliefs were, understand some of my bad habits, where they were coming from, so I can go and fix that, so I can be more of a high performer and not just rely on my skills and my ability, but also rely on my optimism and my control and my resilience from a mental standpoint. So when I was going through this on my own, in my own growth, I realized that I'm not alone in this. That blew my mind, how much we don't know about how to manage us. We are not taught this in school. Our parents don't teach us this. I mean, my parents didn't learn this in any which way. How are they supposed to teach their children? And when I work with a lot of kids now, and their parents are the same way. We're not taught this. So it's hard to pass this information of how to think well, how to feel well, how to be well to our kids if we don't know how to do it. So it's up to them. It's up to us individually to figure it out for ourselves. And then that just hit me like, I now have, I feel like I have a ton of value. I feel like I've got experience. I feel like I've got, things that I can give and coaching that I can provide. So I just thought, who really needs my services the most? And I really just sat with myself and thought, what do I like to do? Who do I like to talk to? At that time, and even now, still, I'm very much into like Tony Robbins and Bob Proctor and people like that. And it just hit me that I really want to be able to. I have value, and I really wanted to make sure that that's my passion. And I wanted to be sure that I could coach that. I could talk about that on a regular basis, on a daily basis, because it is a lifestyle for me. So I'm doing this stuff anyway. I'd rather make
Yeah.
a living from it. And for me, it just was clear. I was also working for a sports team at the time, and I thought, I love this environment. I love being in a rink. I love being at a professional level. It was just fun. It was sexy. It was intriguing, but there was also not really pressure, but there was a demand for excellence in that environment, whether you're an athlete or whether you're in the sales side of the corporation, of the business. There were results that needed to be had and obtained. And I love that. So for me, it was like, I really want to create this business that teaches others how to not only master their craft, but to master who they are so they can master their craft. There were a lot of things in my way that I didn't realize that were stopping me from leveling up in my job, in my craft, in my skills, in my abilities. And it really all started with mindset. So I'm a huge advocate for thinking well, feeling well, being well. And I think that's why you and I click so well here, is because I know you're have a similar mindset. And a lot of entrepreneurs in our community, I find, are struggling. And I'm an entrepreneur. And I've had these challenges too. So I just put my skills into practice. I put what I know on how to manage my controllables into play, just like I would show an elite athlete trying to win a gold medal at the Olympics or a championship for their team. So that's a long-winded version of how I became who I am. You can tell that I have a huge passion for this. And I feel like I was put through the ringer in the first 35 years of my life to really become the man that I am now. And I'm super proud of that. And I want to be able to share what I've learned to others so they can feel good and think well and feel well and be well.
I know. I love, and there's no such thing as a long-winded answer, and I do love that answer. And again, for anybody watching, it is live. You have any questions, please put them in the comment section. You want to find out more about Align Your Mind, click on it in the comment section, as well as the courses that we're hosting here until mid-December. I always think about why me? Why did I, turn out to who I was? I had a lot of trauma in my life when I was younger. I struggled with addiction, and to be quite honest, when I was at Notre Dame, I was stuck between around a lot of really good leaders, and again, it was in the hockey world, a lot of it, right? The Rod Brindamores and Curtis Josephs and things like that you kind of learn from as a young kid. And I really think that ingrained a lot of things that I didn't realize at that time that were extremely important to me, that became very valuable later in life when I became an entrepreneur and I had that mindset. And even in prior jobs, I wanted to hire athletes because I truly believed athletes got it. I believed in their work ethic, their teamwork, a lot of things along those lines. So everything that you've said here, it really resonates with me.
I really love what you just said there. And part of why I love working with athletes, it's because, well, first of all, the age of the athletes that I'm working with, the age group that I'm working with, is usually 16 to 25. And I think that, we're all given our own path. We're all given our own challenges. We're all given skills and talents. But I love to work with athletes because you're right. They do have a sense of discipline. They do have a sense of the right work effort. And when you're trying to train somebody, to be their best selves, to think well, to feel well, to put in that work. It's not sexy. It always feels good after you're done. But to do the work, there needs to be a driver. Now, for most people, it's pain. That's what it was for me. It wasn't the sport that I was in that I loved that was forcing me to go, okay, I want to get good at hockey, so I'm going to dig into my mindset. For me, it was I just need to survive and feel good because I'm imploding. So
Yeah.
for me, it was hitting rock bottom and feeling pain that forced me to take action, and that was really the driver to want to level up. So I love working with athletes because we can use something that they love, like baseball or hockey or football or track or whatever it might be. Or if you're an entrepreneur, business, right? We can use that to go, I really love this atmosphere. I love this dynamic. I love what I do. Let me use that as the driver. And because that's exciting when you're winning games, when you're winning championships, when you're succeeding in your sport while you're leveling up your own life and doing your own internal work. That's a great feeling. That's a great path. But when there's nothing to drive you to want to be elite, it's pretty hard to want to be elite. So I think that's why I know that's why I have a lot of success with my clients is because we're using that driver of sports, their passion to want to get a scholarship, their passion to want to win a championship, their passion to want to make it to the Olympics. Whatever that might be is really driving them to put in the work, to be quiet every day, to do the work internally, and to be disciplined, right? So there's a big driver there. And I hope that the people that are watching and even tonight, the people that show up, they have a passion to succeed in business. They have a passion to be a great leader, whatever that is. We can leverage our passions to really use that energy to put in the work to level up because it's not easy. Just like when you want to go to the gym, if you don't have any reason to go to the gym, you're not going to go to the gym.
No, it's so true, right? And again, it is a live show. Anybody has questions, please put them in there. Just click on the link to find out more about Robert's Align Your Mind, and we'll go from there.
Excuse me.
But again, you know, and then we've had this conversation, and this is what's kind of led us to to here and to us working with Align Your Mind is I truly believe the synergies between athletes and entrepreneurs are identical. And I've had this conversation with Jessica and Paula of Hone as well, and what they're gonna and what they do with athletes, and obviously it's not so much entrepreneurship, but you have the same mindset, you have the same goals, you have the same drive, right? I mean, you mentioned to win a championship. Well, maybe it's to get that first 500,000 or $1 million in sales. What do I have to do to get there? What what do I have to sacrifice maybe in my personal life to get there? What do I have to do to get there? Who do I have to talk to? Who do I have to partner with? Who do I have to collaborate with? Who's going to be on my side to help me get there? And I see this happen in our community over and over and over. And this is why I love Alberta so much, because we are so good at this. But I mean, there are so many synergies on an athlete and an entrepreneur.
And one of those is who can I collaborate with, to your example? Who can I partner with? How can I get my marketing to another level? You might find those answers, but you also might be afraid to look for those answers. That's an internal struggle. If you're not
Yeah.
confident in yourself, if you don't believe that that partnership is really for the right reasons, you may have a little bit of hesitation to not make that call. So, just like an athlete, how do I get to the next level? How do I win a championship? Who do I need to work with? Oh, I need to work with a mental coach. I don't want to do that. There's nothing wrong with me. Well, maybe that's a problem. Maybe that's the hurdle that's stopping you from leveling up, just as an example.
Yeah.
But these are the things internally where I focus on. And this is what we're going to talk about in our workshops: how to get over those internal thoughts, those internal feelings, those internal mindsets of that guy's too big for me, too popular. He's not going to want to collaborate with me. Or my business, Maybe you look like a small business, but in your mind you're a big business, and someone feels that energy from you and there's no alignment, and they give you sort of a bad vibe back, and you just think, oh, I don't like that person. He doesn't like me. He doesn't see my my worth. We have all of this going on all the time, just like athletes do when they get feedback from a coach or from a parent or from a teammate or their own thoughts just getting in their own way. So I think it's and I didn't create this statement. Someone else had. I'm sure it was some coach in college. I'm sure, I can't remember where I read it. But in order to win championships, you have to be a champion. And really what that means is, in order to win, you got to win yourself. You got to win you so that you can win in the world around you. And I think that's a really good perspective for a lot of us. So when we look at, well, okay, if I need to win me, how do I do that? What does that look like? What does that mean? Well, like we talked about to start, it's not just digging into your craft and grinding it out and making more phone calls and sending more emails and, shaking more hands. That's not just it. It's not just grind. It's mind, body, and craft. Your mind can be great. You could be excelling in your craft, in your business. But if your health isn't very good, you're going to cap out. Just like any of those three pillars, mind, body, or craft, they all have to be worked on individually, internally, to really win, to win in life, to know that I feel good, I'm thinking well, I believe in myself, I believe in what I'm doing. And with all of that, above all of that comes control, optimism, and resilience, which is something else we teach teams and individuals. So while you're functioning day to day and you're feeling good and there's still unknowns, there's still fear, there's still anxiety of, I don't know where this is going to lead. I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know if I should make this call. Maybe I feel like I'm, calling this person too much, following up too much, looking too needy, feeling too desperate. Maybe that's how I might feel when I'm trying to call somebody. That might not be how they're looking at it on the other end. So it could be your own mindset that's just stopping you from making that call. So if we want to win us, we really got to work on our own mind, our body, and our craft. And out of everybody that I work with, that I have worked with, and that I know that I'm going to work with, it's about mind, body, and craft. And to let everything else around you, just forget about it. Don't even think about it. Work on you, right? And that's what it really means to be your best self. Uncover your own deficiencies. Work on those. Be okay with not being perfect and trying to figure stuff out. I mean, as an athlete, that's part of the journey. That's part of the fun, is that you keep leveling up and feeling yourself grow. As a business owner, I was doing something with my wife yesterday, and we were looking at some different incomes throughout my years and contracts that I had. And it was interesting just to see it grow year by year. And I thought, I've never really looked at it like that. Man, it felt good to know that even though I'm in the weeds every day, I can pop my head out and look back and go, wow, like I've harvested a lot of grain here, and that feels good. So I think perspective and how we speak to ourselves is key, and we're gonna touch on that so much tonight. I can't wait.
Oh, I can't wait too. Again, I'm talking with Robert Broten, founder of Align Your Mind, alignyourmind.ca. Click on it in the comments section. Also, the next 3 courses are in the comments section. So, please click on them and register. You touched about it, and this is something that I say a lot, that a company is only as healthy as its founder. And I truly believe that. And this is why, having people like yourself and even Sarah and Kira of Collectively Tangled out there helping entrepreneurs, helping them get to that next level, overcoming their fears, because it's very, very difficult. It's very hard to pick up that phone if you've never been a salesperson. It's very hard to hire somebody when you've never hired anybody before. It's very hard to ask somebody for help if you and have that trust if you're not a technical co-founder, and then and then, realize that I need somebody to do all my code and build this for me. Yet are they, in the back of my mind, there's that trust. There's everything that goes along with being an entrepreneur, and it's hard. It is very, very, very hard. Even like being an athlete is very, very hard. I watch our girls, 14 and 17, train extremely hard for softball, and they've both become very good athletes. Will they play at the next level? Maybe if they decide to, they probably could. But I love that, and that's what I love, that drive. I love what an athlete mindset brings. I love that entrepreneurial mindset, because being an entrepreneur isn't for everybody. We talk about this. There's a lot of entrepreneurs out there, and you might be good as that. I'm going to use it. You might not be that first line center. You might be that fourth line winger, but we're going to need you to succeed. And then that, in building that entire team around what's best for the company, is so important.
And I think if you want to reach your potential, you have to be willing to step outside of your comfort zone. You have to be willing to look at all different angles. And you talked about your young girls. They have, because they've been training it, their craft. They've been working on their body at practice. So mind, body, and craft. Think about this. So many young athletes, so many young people have skills. They've got talents. They've been playing hockey or baseball or football or running track for, seems like forever. They're so good at it. And then all of a sudden they get to college and they're not that good. Why? Well, because everyone around them is equally skilled, but some of them are mentally stronger. Some of them are more confident. Some of them are less confident. So then it really starts to uncover, all right, you've got the talent, you've got the physique. The last stage, because our brains always develop as we get older. So it just makes sense that our talent's going to be there, our body, our physique is going to be there, but our mind isn't there. It's always the last thing to fall into place. But that's where you're going to be shown what you need, whether you're an athlete or whether you're an entrepreneur. And you start that business and you get into it and you start to feel, uh-oh, there's that pressure, that mental anxiety, that fear. Now, those are things that the universe is showing you, like, hey, if you want this, this is where you need to level up, because you've got the skills, you've got the knowledge, you've got the product, you've got the service. But what about the mental side of your business? Are you willing to put yourself out there? Are you willing to be different? Are you trying to be like everybody else? There's so many ways you can go if your mindset isn't clear on what you really want. And that's part of the process for all of us, is to really sit down in a quiet space and think about, well, first of all, who am I and what do I want? If we start off by thinking, well, what do I want? That may not match to who you really are. And again, we have values, Jade. We have values already, but do we know them? Not consciously. Now, I can tell you that unconsciously, our unconscious mind knows who we are, but that's your sense of identity, and that's been developing ever since you were very small. So maybe your sense of self, your sense of identity, your value system isn't matching what you know now as an intelligent adult. Now, this is a simple one. If I have values that my grandfather had, I really can't have those values today. There's things that change in the world. So how do I know that? If I'm being triggered by something and I realize that it's just a really bad value that I have, that could be the reason. And our mind is always communicating with us. So for me in my work, what I do, and this is what our first workshop is really all about, it's understanding the world around us. How does our brain take in this 2 million bits of information per second that our brain is perceiving? How do we do that? And what can we do about it? And then we have to identify, well, what do I want? Where's my clarity? What's my purpose? What are my skills? What do I believe in? We have to consciously drum that up and pull that from inside of us to know, what are my true values? What do I really care about now? Not back then, but now. And when you find that clarity, when you find those answers, then it's so much easier to start taking action and being confident in your direction. So yeah, you might have a good business idea, you might have a good service, you might be a great athlete, but there's going to come a time where your mind is going to push you to level up. And the first thing that we need to do is really understand who we are, so we know how we fit in to this big bad world around us.
And even expanding on that, when you said you might have a good idea, an idea is a starting point. And the more you share it, the more you collaborate, the more you talk about it, the more it expands, the more it changes, the more it grows. Just like an entrepreneur has to, just like an athlete has to. And using our girls as an example, they go to Orca Performance, and you have Goody, Lauren, and Taylor there that work on different things, preventative injury stuff, on their mind stuff, on making sure that if they do get an injury, that there is a little bit of a setback. Well, where do we have to go back to before we get back and be better? And there's so many, again, there's so many synergies, which is why this is such a good partnership. And I'm so excited about the next 4 courses. Please click on the link. The next one is identifying your mental foundation. And I'm excited about all of them. I'm excited about tonight.
Do you want me to go over a couple of those and just kind of let everybody know what this is all about? And we've talked about the first workshop, basically, is understanding how we look at the world around us, right? Understanding I used this last week when I was doing a presentation. When we use all of our 5 senses to see, feel, hear, taste, smell the world around us, how does that bounce off of us, basically? How does that work? And how can we manage and control the bounce, which is our behavior, our attitude, our emotion, right? The second workshop is about what we just finished talking about, understanding who we really are, our goals. What do we want? Let's get clear. Let's breathe some energy into it, like you were talking about. Let's get that vision out there. Let's identify what our strengths are, what our values are, what we believe in, what our mission statement is, who exactly we want to help, who do we want to target. I think those things are important. And then in the third workshop and in the fourth workshop, we're going to start talking about the mental strategies and habits and routines and frameworks that I use for all my athletes, coaches, and teams that we can bring into our own organization. So it's being disciplined with certain frameworks. It's breath work. It's finding the moment. It's mentally rehearsing maybe a call before you actually make that call. When you understand what you're doing to your mind and what that little process of, a mental rehearsal or a visualization is, it sounds so simple, and most of us know how to do it. We don't do it very well because we don't understand why we're doing it and what's happening to our mind and body when we do it. So in courses 3 and 4, we're going to talk about those high performance habits that will keep us going once we know who we are, what we want, and how we want to serve.
Yeah.
So those 4 courses really all sort of tied together. I guess I should finish it off. We need it. We need it step by step. Before we can start really being a high performer, we got to understand what kind of car we're driving and what that car can do and how that car operates, so we can drive it to the best of its ability.
No, and I love the car analogy, and it's something that I hear all the time, especially with VMSA and what they do there. I mean, it's a great franchise that really works on the driver, not so much the car, right? I mean, everything's got to be part and parcel. They've got to be one as you're moving forward. And literally, I was going to change the next question, and you've already answered it for me. Instead of saying what's next for you, I wanted to say, hey, tie into all these courses into one, and explain a little bit about them. So if people are interested in coming and want to learn a little bit more, what would that be? So I guess I do. Now that you've said that. And I mean, there obviously will be people that are going to hear this and they're going to sign up for courses, 2, 3, and 4, and they're missing one. That's okay, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you're not getting, you're missing a big part of it. Understanding how our brain is seeing the world around us. But if you feel that we all know if we've got issues, right? We know if our mind isn't strong, we know. So if that comes up, I mean, we have to reach out. I think for anybody that is looking for help, there's help out there if you look for it. There's people that want to help you if you look for it. And there's people with a lot of good value when you look for it. And I think that's what's so special about this call is that you're offering to all these entrepreneurs that might be struggling with one thing or another to go, hey, you know what? I don't have all the answers, but I have a community. I have people who are going to help. I have people that want to help. And for those of you, reach out to us. I mean, that's what we're here to do. I may not have all the answers, but I definitely I practice what I preach. So I have those entrepreneurial hurdles and issues and thoughts and feelings. And I mean, I'm not making 10 billion in my business, so I'm not right where I need to be yet. So I'm going to keep going. But it all has to be tied in. And I think that we can, the biggest takeaway in what I do, it really comes down to, I love this. I'm going to ask you a question, Jade. Let's go down this road. Where does confidence come from to you?
Experience.
Okay. But what if you have experience, like you won a championship or you've run a successful business, and then years later, that challenge comes up and now you're not handling it so well. Now your mindset's a little different. Now you're feeling different about it. Are you always going to be able to succeed because you've done something once before?
Oh, absolutely not. Right.
Right. So confidence doesn't always come from experience. We don't really think about it.
That's very obvious, right? I mean, you things change.
Right.
You made the analogy earlier on that, things in your grandpa's era is a whole lot different than it is going to be now. That's going to be a whole lot different for our kids, right?
So what I've learned is that confidence only comes from one place, and it's what you say to yourself. It's your self-talk. And I bring this up because that's the keystone to our mind. It's what we say to ourselves. Our thoughts create our shitstorm. Our thoughts create our hurdles. Our thoughts create our battles. But it's also our thoughts that create our perspectives, our attitude, our behavior, our emotion. So if we can get better at thinking the right things the right way, that's half the battle. It really comes down to what we say to ourselves. It's the language that we speak to ourselves in anything that we're doing. I could be very successful with one client and have another client and struggle just because I was successful. It's what I'm saying to myself. It's how I'm interpreting this moment and how I'm putting everything into perspective to make me feel good so I can really draw out the best version of me. That's not going to be anxious and scared and fearful and thinking, oh no, I don't have control of this. That's not going to be the best version of me. So it's what I say to myself. And that's hard because neuroscience will tell you that the thoughts that we have in a day are somewhere around 30 to 40,000 thoughts a day. Neuroscience also says that each day we think 90 to 95% of the same thoughts that we thought yesterday. So our mind is just in this cycle of the same thing. So therefore, it becomes really important to use the car analogy, turn off the cruise control, pump the brakes, and stop. Be still, be quiet, right? So you can catch yourself in those patterns, in those routines, in that cruise control sort of behavior, and think about, all right, what's this moment telling me? What's this moment bringing me? Because as you know, once we're successful, the universe is going to try to level us up because we have a desire to level up once we reach a certain level of success. You're going to get challenged. The challenges are there for us, and we all know this already, right? We all know that those challenges are there to help us grow. But how are we interpreting those challenges with our own language in our head when they pop up? That's really where the rubber meets the road. That's when it matters. That's when it counts as an individual to go, all right, here's what I'm facing. What do I do? How do I think about it? How am I going to feel about my next step forward? And in business, there's a whole lot of that going on.
Oh, always a whole lot. And even, one of my favorite conversations of telling it like it is. I mean, out of all of them, I love them all. I've 350-ish great conversations. And one of my favorite goes back to Dan McKinnon, and again, another psychologist who, talked about how do you work it within a family business, which is a whole new can of worms, separating the dinner table from the boardroom table. And that was quite a good conversation. And I mean, you and I could talk about this for hours, and we probably should have almost, a discussion a quarter, to be quite honest,
Right.
about this.
Right.
But I know, again, I'm always sad when, these conversations come to an end, but I would like to put a little spin on my last question. And I usually ask it all the time, but if you had, a piece of advice from the psychology, the athlete, the entrepreneur side of how to clear your mind and get ready, what would that be?
Well, I think we already know the answer to this. It's breath work. This is such a thing that we hear all the time, but it's for a reason. Because the way that we can control our nervous system is through our breath. There's our unconscious mind will feel comfort when you have a longer exhale than your inhale. That's just biology. That's just neuroscience. That's just what we know, how to feel better when our nervous system is ramped up for whatever reason, right? When we're stressed, when we're fearful, when we're angry, how to get a hold of ourselves. It really comes down to just mastering that space between stimulus and response. And that is a big thing that I do in my workshops. It was Viktor Frankl, who's a philosopher a long time ago, basically said that we have the power to master that space between stimulus and response. If we can create space, which is taking a breath, pausing for a second, and getting a hold of ourselves before we automatically react. The automatic reactions are usually the behaviors that we don't want, unless we can get to a point where we've conditioned ourselves to behave the right way all the time. We're usually not starting off like that. So to be able to take a breath before you react, even before you think, or as you're thinking, recognizing that this isn't a good thought, this isn't an empowering thought, this is a negative thought. Let me control myself. Well, thoughts create emotions, Jade, 100% of the time. That's why confidence is starting from your self-talk, because it's what you say to yourself. So if we want to be our best self in any moment, whether it's in a call, whether it's with a customer, whether it's with your family, whether it's with yourself or in traffic, whatever the situation is, it's always about creating space. So the best piece of advice I have is for people to condition and teach themselves how to be quiet, not just verbally, but mentally. Mentally let go of your thoughts. Mentally train yourself and understand how to give yourself some comfort, to give yourself some peace. Your mind will just run like a wild dog if you let it. So, like a puppy, we need to train it to sit when it's stimulated. When it wants to react, we constantly train it to go back to the moment and sit and be still and be quiet. And I don't think that's exactly how we need to handle ourselves as well. So the advice that I'd give is definitely learn how to breathe. I know it sounds simple, but it's all over, our social media feeds, and it's in our awareness all the time because it's important and it matters. And we're trying to, I don't understand how sometimes, I've conditioned myself to be this way. So sometimes it's hard to think, like, how did I used to do that? I can't, it's just not me anymore. Right. And when I see people just constantly behaving unconsciously without any filter, without any, no breath work, they're not pumping the brakes on their behavior at all. It just comes flying out. And that's scary because there's no control in that. So I think that the first thing we need to do is really teach ourselves how to calm down and breathe and get a hold of us.
I love it. And I love this conversation. And as I said a few minutes ago, it could go on forever. So again, if you want to find out some more information, go to Align Your Mind in the comment section, click on it. Our next course is November 6th and December 4th and the 18th. They are in the Eventbrite. The link is there. Click on it. And again, you need some help. You need to be there. Our next office hours is November 12th. Sign up. You get some advice, get some help, because that's what it's all about. We're all here together. We're all here to help. And again, thank you, Robert, for coming on, sharing your knowledge. I'm excited about our course tonight and the next 4. And yeah, let's rock and roll and share some good knowledge over the next 2 to 3 months.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's I love talking to you, and I'm really excited for tonight and the next 4 sessions.
Me too. And I hope everybody, enjoyed today's conversation. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, and I look forward to seeing you next week or maybe even tonight. So have a great day, everybody, and take care.